The rain came to the small town slowly that evening, not as a storm that frightened people, but as a steady curtain of gray that softened the streets and quieted the world. The sky was heavy and low, and every sound seemed calmer, like the town itself wanted to breathe slower for a while. Inside a small family diner near the edge of Main Street, warm lights glowed against the windows, and the gentle hum of voices mixed with the sound of plates and silverware. It was the kind of place where people came not only to eat, but to rest for a moment from life outside. Andrew worked there almost every evening. He was a single father, and the diner job was what kept his small world together. He wore a simple apron, kept his tired smile ready, and moved carefully as if every dish he carried mattered. He had learned patience from life, and kindness from struggle. His daughter Emma waited for him at home after school each day, trusting that he would always make it back to her, no matter how long the shift was. That quiet promise was what kept him steady. Money was always tight. Bills gathered on the kitchen table. Shoes were replaced late. Nights sometimes ended with worry instead of rest. But Andrew tried to keep life gentle for Emma. He walked her to school when he could, packed simple lunches, and listened to her stories even when exhaustion tried to steal his focus. Their apartment was small, but it was warm. Their life was not perfect, but it was honest and filled with love. On that rainy evening, as he wiped down a booth, Andrew noticed someone outside through the blurred glass. A young woman stood alone across the street, soaked, her thin coat clinging to her like paper. She seemed lost, both in the rain and in her thoughts. Cars splashed past her. People walked by with umbrellas, not stopping. Something about the way she wrapped her arms around herself made Andrew's heart tighten. He excused himself for a moment, stepped outside into the cold rain, and crossed to her. Her name was Lona, though he did not know that yet. Up close she looked exhausted, frightened, and uncertain. Her hair was wet against her face, her lips trembling from cold. Andrew spoke gently, the way he spoke to Emma when she was upset. He didn't ask sharp questions. He didn't demand anything. He simply said, "You look like you could use a warm place for a minute." His voice was steady, calm, human. She hesitated, then nodded. He guided her inside, gave her a towel, and brought her a bowl of warm soup without charging her. They sat for a short time at a quiet booth. She didn't say much. She didn't explain why she was alone in the rain. Andrew didn't push. He only let kindness sit between them like a soft blanket. Before leaving, she finally managed a small, grateful smile. "Thank you," she whispered. That was all. Then she disappeared back into the wet night. Andrew watched her go, hoping she would be safe, but knowing that life sometimes led people down difficult roads they had to walk themselves. Days passed. The memory of the rain slowly faded, becoming just another evening in Andrew's mind, though Lona's quiet eyes stayed somewhere in the back of his thoughts. Life returned to its usual rhythm. Work, dishes, school drop-offs, tired mornings, hopeful evenings. Emma kept talking about school projects and the little dreams she carried in her heart. Andrew kept trying to make their life steady, one careful day at a time. One afternoon, Emma sat cross-legged on their small living room carpet, watching television while Andrew sorted through another pile of bills at the table. The soft buzz of the TV filled the room with background comfort. Then Emma suddenly gasped, her voice breaking through the quiet. "Dad. Dad, look." Andrew turned, tired but alert, and walked closer. On the screen was a news segment. A reporter was speaking about a young woman who had recently survived a difficult situation, someone who had disappeared from public view and then returned with a story that was surprising and emotional. The camera showed her face clearly. It was Lona. Emma pointed, eyes wide. "That's the lady you helped at the diner. I remember you telling me." Andrew stood still, staring at the screen. The reporter explained that Lona was not just anyone. She was the daughter of a well-known business family, someone people recognized, someone who had quietly stepped away from her public life when pressure and expectations became too heavy. The rain night had been one of her hardest moments. She had been trying to find space to breathe again, and kindness had reached her when she most needed it. The story on television was not dramatic or loud. It was gentle, emotional, and honest. Lorna spoke softly about feeling unseen despite being noticed by everyone. She talked about trying to escape noise, responsibility, and fear. And then, with quiet gratitude, she mentioned someone she called a kind waiter with tired eyes and a warm heart who brought her inside a diner, gave her food, and treated her not as a story, but as a human being. Emma looked up at her dad with shining eyes. "That was you," she whispered, full of pride. Andrew felt warmth spread through his chest, not because someone famous had spoken about him, but because he had helped another person truly feel safe for a moment. In a life where he often felt small, ordinary, and unseen, his simple kindness had meant something big to someone else. A few days later, something unexpected happened. The diner door opened during a quiet afternoon, and Lorna walked in dry this time. Calm this time. Different. She looked around until her eyes found Andrew, and for a moment they both simply stood there, remembering rain, fear, and warmth. Then she smiled, a real and steady smile, and came closer. They sat together again, but this time the air felt lighter. She thanked him properly. She explained what his kindness had done for her, how it had reminded her that there were still good people in the world, people without cameras or wealth, people who helped simply because they cared. She told him that when the world tried to push her back into chaos, she remembered the small diner with warm lights, the bowl of soup, and the quiet kindness of a single dad who still believed in caring about strangers. Before leaving, she did something more. She asked how he was truly doing. She listened. She heard about Emma, about bills, about long nights and quiet worries. And she said softly, "Sometimes the world forgets people like you. But people like you are the reason people like me make it through." She promised not money, not dramatic gifts, but something better, support, opportunity, and connection. A chance for an easier life, not out of pity, but out of respect. Time moved forward again. Slowly. Gently. But now life felt different. Andrew did not suddenly become wealthy or famous. Instead, doors that had once been tightly closed began to open a little. Work became steadier. Pressure felt lighter. Emma grew up with a quiet pride in her father, knowing that kindness mattered in ways the world didn't always see. Whenever rain came to town again, Andrew would pause, look out at the gray sky, and remember that soft evening when everything felt heavy and quiet. He would remember a frightened young woman, a small act of care, a surprised moment in front of the TV, and the feeling of being seen not as someone struggling, but as someone strong, human, and good. And in those moments, with Emma laughing somewhere nearby and the diner lights glowing warm and steady, Andrew understood something simple and true: gentle kindness can change the direction of a life, even if the world never notices the moment it begins.